What is the Navy SEALs? Because around the world, I think people are aware of the term Navy
Sure.
SEALs, but we don't actually know fully what it is.
Yeah. Every branch of, I think, basically every military in the world. This is a broad generalization, but it's usually the case that virtually every branch of every military has some form of specialized unit that carries out special operations. It's the stuff that the Call of Duty video games and Modern Warfare. Those are based on like the idea of specialized combat units that go out and do these kind of difficult and high stakes missions. And so in the US, you have the Army, the Navy, the Marine Corps, the Coast Guard, and the Air Force, and each of them have like their like respective special operations divisions. Like you have Marine Special Operations in the Marines, you have the PJs, the pararescue jumpers in the Air Force. So there's multiple. But of all these special operations units in America, of all the different branches, you could make the case that the most, and I'm gonna get some flack from people that disagree with me, the most, let's just say, well-known and potentially most skilled, and I say that carefully because of course there are other groups like the Green Berets who are incredible at certain things, but the most skilled at multiple disciplines is very likely the Navy SEAL teams. And it's because the acronym SEAL stands for Sea, Air, Land, so SE and AL. The idea is, even though it's under the Navy, which is sort of like maritime and water, the reality is that the SEAL teams are a special operations group that can insert into virtually any environment, sea, air, or land. They can also use multiple insertion platforms, whether it's diving, jumping, going in on land. It's like a highly versatile special operations group, whereas a lot of the other special operations groups, not just in the United States, but internationally, are kind of specialized in certain geographies. Like you have mountain warfare specialists. You have like the Dutch have this incredible diving unit, but the SEALs are like, we do everything.
Mhm.
And they also sort of came into prominence. They started in the 60s under JFK. They really came into prominence post 9/11 because they were being sent out into the Middle East, which is, it's a landlocked place. But this Navy Special Operations Unit was being very successful carrying out, kinetic operations all across the Middle East. So it's like a very famous jack of all trades special operations group that, especially after the Bin Laden raid as well, that sort of made them celebrities. But even before that, they were very well known as like the jack of all trades special operations group.
How long does it take to get through training and pass the other end?
Broadly speaking, I would say it takes about 2 years, but realistically, it takes a little bit longer. So there's two ways to become a SEAL. You either go in as an enlisted person. So there's the enlisted component of the military, which is somebody basically without a college degree who just like raises their hand and just serves. Like that's like the grunts of the world. Those are the enlisted community. And then you have the officer side, which is somebody who at a minimum needs to have like a college degree to apply. You go to like officer school. And in the SEAL teams, there's like a tiny, tiny number of officer SEALs and a massive number of enlisted SEALs. But they're two very different pathways into training. If you go the officer route, it's practically like a political appointment just to get an opportunity. Like it's so, so difficult to even get a chance to try out that what you get, and it's because there's just like a handful of spots available. That's really all it was. So you have all these people on the enlisted side who actually have college degrees and could easily like become an officer in the military who, let's say, have other opportunities that they could pursue with their college degree, but they want to be a SEAL.
Mhm.
And so you have this big number of people that are electing to go be enlisted to try out to be SEALs. And that's important because it makes the enlisted side super competitive. You have like these professional athletes and you have like Olympians and you have like the best college athletes and you have MMA fighters and wrestlers and then like the random people like me who have no resume, and you all just show up for the class in San Diego that technically is 6 months long, but there's like, before you even join the Navy, you need to basically compete for a spot to even have a chance to try out. And there's a whole application process before you've joined the Navy that can take years. And then let's say you get your chance as an enlisted person. They're like, okay, you're going to get a chance to go. Well, first you got to go to boot camp. That's 2 months in Chicago. And technically you can fail out of it, but really you won't. It's sort of like a suck it up and get through it. But then at the end of boot camp, at least when I went through, you go to this other school, which is like a prep school. It's another 2 months in Chicago. Mind you, you haven't even started training yet. This is like potentially a year of pre-Navy, and now you're 4 months into like you're in the Navy, but you're not really in SEAL training yet. You go to this prep school where you like learn how to swim and run. You already know how to do these things, but professional coaches work with you. The Navy invests a lot of money in getting you really strengthened up and mentally strengthened because following the prep school, you go to San Diego, where you go through what's regarded as like the hardest part of SEAL training, which is it's called BUDS, BUDS. And it stands for Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL School. And it's basically, imagine whatever you think of as boot camp, like military boot camp, make it not 2 months long, but 6 months long, because most boot camps are about 2, and make it like 1,000 times more difficult. It's really the same concepts. It's like intense, grueling, physical, emotional, and mental like torture for 6 months. And that's the part where everybody fails out and drops out. That's like if you made a movie about SEAL training, you'd really only focus on the 6 months of BUDS training. And in fact, you'd only focus on the first 2 months because that's the most physically challenging. And then once you finish that, you go to advanced training, which you're still not a SEAL yet. It's another 6 months of like learning how to actually do the job. So BUDS is like, can you handle it? Advanced training or SEAL qualification training is, I'm going to teach you how to shoot a gun with surgical precision. I'm going to teach you how to jump out of a plane. I'm going to teach you how to like use this technology because you need to know how to do the job.